you on that particular thing. I frankly think that's what Bush, with all his flaws, is trying to achieve in Iraq if he can say. If he's not able to speak because he doesn't know how to speak, but if he could speak with more three-word phrases, he would be able to express what he's trying to do, bring about a free democracy in the heart of that part of the world. And say, why? Well, because otherwise terrorism will continue to germinate, and then with the modern world of weapons of mass destruction, with the wealth that's centered in that part of the world, sooner or later people are going to get their hands on weapons of mass destruction, whether now or later, that can be used in a terrorist manner by people who are willing to, commit suicide. So it has a weird logic that those who don't want to pay attention to it put their heads in the sand. So, oh, it can never happen. Well, in fact, the day it does happen, you don't want to be here. It can never happen up until the day it does happen. Oh my God, how did that happen? Well, it's too late at that point. So unless you break down the situation, not to control an area, but to bring about more protection of civil liberties in an area so dissent can flourish, then people are going to be intimidated for the foreseeable future. And no free expression, whatever person you say, well, that's not our business. No, it wouldn't be ordinarily unless it was directed at us. And we found in September 11th, I'm giving a pep talk for these people because I actually believe they're right on this, being an Islamic specialist to some extent myself. September 11th unfortunately brought home the bare minimum of what can happen. The bare minimum of what can happen, not the maximum. And that's why people who want to hide from this and make believe that this doesn't exist are dreaming. So in order to criticize a given religious presentation, whether it's Islam, Judaism, Christianity, Buddhism, or whatever, you have to have the people's rights protected. Even in Hinduism, time of Gandhi, there were terrorist organizations. Gandhi was assassinated by Hindu extremist organizations who objected to some of the spin that he was putting on things. Unless you have a situation where you can protect people's right to dissent, then the terrorists or the intimidators, to go on a rabbit hole, always win the day. Always win the day. If I live in a street in Orange County or South LA or anywhere, and there's people there who are murderers. Most of the people are decent, but there's a clique of about 15–20% who are murderers and cutthroats. And they murder people who speak their mind openly, like Thomas Jefferson. Let's say Thomas Jefferson lived on my street, and he wanted to speak his views about, civil religion in America or something. And there were some, extremist people who felt that they could murder people. In the end, the street would cave in. The street would not resist the cutthroats. And they talk about this street. So this is a really serious problem for the modern world. In the Western world, okay, it's gotten to the point where people's rights are more or less protected by the civil governments. It's happening in Central Europe now, more or less. Russia is just coming out of the dark ages on this. The Middle East is, God knows where they're at. I frankly think they're not even out of the dark ages on this particular issue. Not there are other modes of being. The Far East seems to be well along towards coming out of this predicament. Countries like Japan and probably even Vietnam to some extent. I can't speak for China, but China has a civilization of more tolerant, if you like, at least. They don't seem to settle things by being intimidating, cutthroat behavior. So I think Chinese civilization tends to be more intellectual anyway. So we have certain trouble spots in the world, and I think that's what you guys are going to deal with the rest of your life. So coming back to Whitman, you don't have to agree with everything he says as a person to find some inspiration here. So the reason we're doing the memory of President Lincoln is out of this terrible struggle that we had in this country. He expresses a religious emotion that I think is fairly attractive, unique, powerful, and very moving. So that's why we're doing it. How you would put that in exam is up to you. Look at this section 6 and 7. Coffin that passes through lanes and streets, Lincoln's funeral procession, going through the country on the way back to what they call the West then. We call it the Middle West now, but the country hadn't gotten much further past the Middle West at that time in any significant numbers. The pomp of the